Hey everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer. We are diving deep into a major financial paradox that is completely, silently, yet aggressively affecting young professionals and families across India right now. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right financially, but you're still somehow running on a treadmill going nowhere, well, this one is absolutely for you.
Seriously, I want you to take a second and just audit your own life. Earning $1.5 lakh a month in India, that should feel like you've completely made it, right? It should feel like you are doing incredibly well with your money. But here's the massive paradox. Earning a hefty paycheck doesn't automatically mean you're actually getting ahead. In fact, so many high earners in India today are constantly stressed and literally living paycheck to paycheck.
You know, this phenomenon actually has a name. It's called the middle class trap or the middle income trap. Basically, it's this really dangerous scenario where a high income is entirely consumed by living costs, luxury upgrades, loans, and heavy EMIs. Instead of your money working for you, you're just working to maintain a lifestyle, which completely prevents true generational wealth creation.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be covering the high-income paradox, the price of looking rich, rising debt, behavioral blind spots, and finally, the power of compounding.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the high-income paradox. Look, there is a literal world of difference between earning to build wealth and earning just to pay your EMIs. With a really good paycheck, it's so incredibly easy to fall into the illusion of success. You start making financial decisions like buying an expensive car or a premium home on massive EMIs. But while it feels great for a moment, it traps high earners in a 50 lakh debt cycle for decades. It totally limits your freedom. The income is there, sure, but most of it is instantly redirected to things that actually lose value over time, rather than things that gain value.
Which brings us to Section 2, the price of looking rich.
20 lakh rupees. Just let that number sink in for a second. According to industry data, this is the average amount Indians are spending on weddings right now. We all know the pressure of the big fat Indian wedding, right? And maybe trying to outdo Sharmaji's son. But this competitive spending, purely to impress extended family, is exactly where so much middle-class wealth just vanishes into thin air.
And to put that 20 lakh into perspective, 12 years. Based on India's per capita income of around 1.17 lakh, that 20 lakh average wedding represents roughly 12 entire years of total pre-tax earnings for an average individual. That is wild. We are literally trading over a decade of human labor and potential wealth generation for a single multi-day event.
And the devastating consequence of all this is that 20% of all loans taken by Indians are strictly for weddings. This competitive spending is pushing families into massive, crushing debt spirals. Often, they can't even pay back the initial loans, so they take on additional debt, getting completely trapped. And beyond just the math, this takes an incredibly heavy toll on people's mental health.
Okay, let's move on to Section 3, rising debt, shrinking savings.
Now you might be thinking this is just a few irresponsible people out there. But official Reserve Bank of India data from 2019 to 2025 reveals a full-blown systemic crisis. Over this period, annual household financial assets grew by a respectable 48% to 35.6 lakh crore. But get this, household financial liabilities absolutely skyrocketed by 102%. They literally doubled from 7.5 lakh crore to 15.7 lakh crore. Consumer leverage is surging everywhere, and it's making families incredibly vulnerable to interest rate hikes or any sudden loss of income.
So why does this keep happening? Let's look at Section 4, behavioral investing blind spots.
Why do we logically know better but still fall into this trap over and over? Honestly, it comes down to human psychology. It's the habit of earning a high income, but immediately surrendering it to fixed costs and, most importantly, delaying our investments. True financial stability doesn't come simply from having a high salary. It comes from deliberately keeping your fixed expenses low and actually having money set aside to handle life's uncertainties.
And when we do finally try to invest, we often trip right over our own psychology. There's a really fascinating paper by Divijaya Baradia studying the Indian stock market that highlights some specific behavioral biases we all have. We suffer from anchoring, which is fixating on past prices. There's herding, where we blindly follow the crowd, and loss aversion, where we fear short-term losses way more than we value long-term gains. These psychological blind spots cause us to make highly irrational choices. We either do excessive, risky trading, or we fall into extreme conservatism, letting our money just sit and rot in low-yield assets. Both of these completely ruin our ability to create wealth.
All right, how do we fix this? Section 5, the power of compounding.
I love this quote from Funds India because it perfectly captures the ultimate antidote to the middle-class debt trap. Even a small amount invested early makes a huge difference over a long time frame. It really isn't about how much you earn, it is entirely about how much time your money has to grow. Let me show you exactly what I mean here. This data reveals the absolutely brutal cost of delay. If you invest just 1 lakh rupees once at age 20, assuming a 12% annual return, it grows to roughly 1 crore by the time you reach 60. But if you fall into that lifestyle trap and wait until age 30 to make that exact same investment, it only grows to 30 lakhs. And if you wait until age 40, it yields just 10 lakhs. Let that sink in. Waiting just 10 years to invest that single lakh results in a literal 70 lakh penalty. The math is entirely unforgiving. So here is your actionable blueprint to finally escape the trap. Step 1. Plan your finances and ruthlessly reduce unnecessary EMIs and debt. Just cut them out. Step 2. Prioritize your investments over lifestyle upgrades. Do not buy things that lose value just to look successful. And Step 3. Start early. Your high income can only translate to actual financial freedom if you stop funding a wealthy lifestyle for today and start funding your actual wealth for tomorrow. I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Next time you look at your bank statement, ask yourself honestly, are you spending your income just to look rich today, or are you aggressively investing it to be genuinely wealthy tomorrow? The choice and the math is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, keep investing, and I'll see you next time.